Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I wanted to show you how I made this little seal plushie. This was actually meant to be based on the mamegoma, but I did the face kind of wrong, so now it's just like a generic seal plush, so I hope you like it anyway. So to start off with, what you want to do is take a white piece of plush fabric and just draw out the rough kind of shape that you want the seal to kind of be. I didn't use a pattern or anything like that for mine, and I felt like this would be a little bit helpful. Just in case you don't have a pattern, you can kind of draw it out to be any shape that you want. So what I did was I cut around the shape that I drew out onto the piece of fabric, about 1 centimetre around all the outside. Now to make the next piece, what I did was kind of went from a side view that I wanted my seal to kind of look like, and I just used that first piece for reference and just made it like the same type of size but from the side view. I only made like one little tail bit on this, and I just kind of used the other piece on top just to gauge how big I wanted it. I then cut this out with a centimetre allowance like I did on the first piece. So to make the second piece, I wanted another piece exactly the same as this one, so I just popped it down onto another piece of white plush fabric, just like the fluffy side down, so that the fluffy sides of both bits were kind of facing inwards, and so that I had the exact same shape again, just on the kind of reverse. What I then did was just took my pen and drew about 1 centimetre in, so that I had 3 shapes with kind of lines on with excess around. What I then did was took the 2 side pieces and popped them right sides together again and pinned them together. I then made 2 marks so I could sew from one end to the other. So what I did was took my sewing machine and just sewed from those 2 marks like I just shown. While still inside out, I then took the bottom piece and just pinned this to those 2 pieces. I then kind of like put them all right sides together and just kind of pinned it with my hand, going all the way around the shape, keeping it like together and really helping myself out once I went to kind of sew those bits together. Now at this point I did realise that I completely forgot to do the little kind of fins. Are they called fins? Flippers? I don't know what they're called on a seal, but those things, I just drew these out roughly onto another piece of white fabric, just folded in half, and I just sewed these down. What I then did was cut off the excess of these, and then I just stuffed these lightly after turning them the right size way round. So once these 2 little shapes were then stuffed, I took out some of the pins that I popped in and just pinned them back in place so that the fins were kind of pointing inwards on the seal and that all the excess was in line with the bit that I was then going to sew. So I made sure they was all lined up, and then I just sewed from one end to the other, making sure not to sew any bit of the tail. I then turned it the right side way round whilst I was happy, and then just made sure that it was all in the right place. So to do the tail, what I did was pinned one side of it down first of all to the bottom side, so that it kind of like sewed those edges separately rather than using the side to side, so that one side bit was sewn to the bottom bit and I forgot about the other bit. That's really hard to explain, but you basically want to sew the top bit to the bottom bit instead of the 2 sides together. So what I then did was pin the other side and just sewed that one separately and took the pin out, and then I started cutting off the excess. Now like I said, this was really hard to explain, but you kind of just want to do one side of the tail first and then do the other, and then cut off all the excess once you're done. So once you have all the excess off, you'll then want to make little snips in and around this tail bit. This will really help once turning it the right side way around to kind of keep that tail like shape, making it like the seal kind of tail that you would expect. So once you have all the excess and it all cut and stuff, you'll then want to turn it inside out, and I actually left about 1 inch gap where I didn't sew, and I just used that gap to turn it inside out. I use my fingers and stuff to get really into those little tail bits and to really smooth out like the edges and stuff. I usually use my scissors to kind of really help. Now at this point my shape was really kind of wrinkly, but this doesn't matter, as once you fill it up with stuffing it will completely smooth out. And with this fabric in particular, because it's really stretchy, like this does happen and you end up getting a few little wrinkles in it, but don't be worried until you fully stuff it up, because that really stretches out the fabric and makes it nice and tight. So you just want to take some toy stuffing and just stuff and stuff and stuff over and over and over until your shape is completely kind of solid. Like I wouldn't say like, you know, like solid, but you want to make sure that all the plush fabric is really stretched out and you're left with no wrinkles, just so that it's really nice and plump and fat. So once you're fully stuffed, you'll then just want to take some needle and thread. I just made sure my plushie was really full to the brim and just sewed this kind of hole up really simply by just doing a normal stitch. So for once, I don't think I've already mentioned it, but like I say on all my plushies, if you don't feel competent enough sewing with a machine, you can do it by hand, or if you don't feel competent enough to sew at all, you can of course use fabric glue in the place where I am sewing. So once you have your basic shape of your seal, you'll then want to go ahead and decorate it. Now, like I said, I was basing mine off the mamegoma, but at this point this is basically where I ruined it, and I got this bit right, the blue bit, where I just cut out a bit of blue felt into a oval shape and sewed this onto the front. I then stuffed it and sewed it down, but then when I moved on to the eyes, that's where I kind of messed up. So like I said, I just cut this bit out into an oval shape. I stitched it half the way round. Once I got to the bottom and had about an inch gap, I just added some toy stuffing inside of that to give it a more 3D shape, and then just carried on sewing until I had the blue bit completely onto the mamegoma's face. So what I then did was took some black puffy paint, and I actually used that to pop on the face. And to be honest, I wasn't planning on doing it. I was planning to add toy safety eyes, but I completely forgot to put them in, so this one here was just using puffy paint because I did not want to take that shape back out. So I just used puffy paint with my dotting tool, and I actually put my eyes a little bit higher than what I would have liked. I would have liked them more further down, like the original Mamegoma by Sanex, but I just didn't, so that's why it's a normal seal plushie rather than the Mamegoma cute little one, but you know, what can you do? So I just put the two eyes on and then popped the nose and the mouth onto the blue part of the seal, and then I went ahead with some pink puffy paint and just did the blush either side of the eyes. A couple of people have asked me for tips and stuff on this, but basically when I put paint onto plush fabric, I just make sure to add loads and loads and really work it into the fabric, making it really kind of wet so that the fabric fibres and stuff really seep into the paint rather than flipping all over the place, because that way you will not get a good circle. So you just want to keep adding paint and really saturating it into the plush fabric. So once the fabric paint was fully dry, the little plushie was then complete. Now I'm not gonna lie, this plushie turned out so sweet. Like the shape of it is just like so perfect to pet. Like you just put it in your hand and just like stroke it. It's so cute. Now I am disappointed with the face that I drew, but I still think it looks really nice. I really love the shape and I love how it's so fat and chunky. So this is obviously my third video for plushie week. I have 2 more to come, so I hope you're enjoying them, and hopefully I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye!